The Galactic Senate's archives held countless warnings about humanity. They weren't the strongest, fastest, or largest species, yet time and again, records described them as highly unpredictable and exceptionally dangerous in war. The Zalkari Empire, a race of ruthless conquerors, had seen these reports. They dismissed them. To them, humans were another primitive species waiting to be subjugated. The Zalkari had crushed dozens of civilizations with superior firepower and tactics. No species had ever resisted them for long. Why would humanity be any different? Their scouts brought back intelligence. Humans were small, fragile, and lacked natural weaponry. Their technology was unremarkable compared to the Empire's vast arsenal. Most crucially, they were alone, no intergalactic allies, no significant off-world colonies. Easy prey. An emergency war council convened. Some among them, the older generals, had heard unsettling stories, tales of human resilience, their reckless ingenuity, their refusal to surrender even in hopeless situations. But they were overruled. The younger warlords, filled with arrogance, found the idea laughable. They believed the warnings were nothing but exaggerated myths. The decision was made. Earth would fall. When the Zalkari fleet arrived in the solar system, they expected the usual response: panic, immediate surrender, desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, they found silence. No distress calls. No diplomats begging for terms. Just a single, simple message transmitted from Earth. "Are you sure you want to do this?" The warlords scoffed. This was nothing more than bravado, a last act of defiance from a doomed species. They broadcast their demands, declaring Earth property of the Zalkari Empire. They were met with another short reply. "You were warned." Undeterred, the invasion began. Orbital bombardments targeted key infrastructure. Troop landers descended upon major cities. The Zalkari expected humanity to break within hours, as every species before them had. At first, it seemed like they were right. There was no formal surrender, but human forces seemed disorganized. Their armies did not march out in neat formations like other species. Their defenses lacked the rigid structures the Zalkari were accustomed to dismantling. Victory was inevitable. But then, something changed. The Zalkari started losing patrols, first one, then several. Entire battalions vanished overnight. Their ships, thought to be untouchable, began falling from the sky. Their communications were jammed, supply lines disrupted, and invasion forces picked apart piece by piece. Something was wrong. This was not a desperate, collapsing species. This was something else. And for the first time, the Zalkari warlords felt something they had never experienced before: doubt. The Zalkari warlords refused to acknowledge the signs. Their forces were superior. Their technology was unmatched. Yet, their soldiers were dying at an alarming rate. At first, they blamed human cowardice. The enemy refused to engage in direct combat. Instead, they struck from the shadows, appearing and disappearing before a counterattack could be mounted. It wasn't war as the Zalkari understood it, it was chaos. Cities that should have fallen in hours became war zones. Every street, every building, every ruined structure turned into a battlefield. The humans adapted too quickly, changing tactics faster than the invaders could respond. The Zalkari relied on overwhelming force, but humanity didn't play by those rules. Commanders sent reinforcements. They tightened patrols, ordered mass purges, and deployed anti-insurgency measures. It made no difference. The humans didn't fight like soldiers, they fought like something else. A Zalkari warlord received a report that an entire platoon had been wiped out in a civilian district. No enemy corpses were found, only the remains of his warriors. The report noted crude explosives, unpredictable ambush patterns, and disturbingly efficient sabotage. These were not desperate, panicked attacks. They were planned, precise, and executed with lethal intent. Another report followed this time. A supply convoy vanished without a trace. Surveillance footage showed nothing. The vehicles were there, then they weren't. As if the planet itself had swallowed them whole. The warlords grew impatient. They ordered orbital strikes, reducing entire cities to rubble. The objective was to instill fear, to remind humanity that resistance was futile. It didn't work. The next day, more Zalkari forces disappeared. Then more. An elite command post, thought to be impenetrable, was infiltrated. Security footage captured the last moments, a brief flicker of movement, then silence. The commanding officer was found impaled with his own ceremonial blade, and a message was carved into the wall beside him. "We warned you." Panic began spreading through the lower ranks. The Zalkari had never faced an enemy like this. Their weapons were powerful, their fleet unmatched, but none of it mattered. Against humanity, raw firepower wasn't enough. The warlords dismissed these concerns, labeling them as weakness. They ordered their troops to press forward, to end the resistance at any cost. Their soldiers obeyed. They marched deeper into the ruins. And they never came back. The Zalkari no longer felt like conquerors. They felt like prey. Entire battalions went dark. Ships disappeared from orbit without a trace. Weapons depots erupted into fireballs before they could be used. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were dismantling the invasion, piece by piece, with terrifying efficiency. The warlords demanded answers. How was this happening? The humans were supposed to be weak, primitive. Instead, they were repurposing captured alien technology at impossible speeds, turning Zalkari weapons against their own creators. A rifle that should take years to master was used flawlessly within days. A downed warship was stripped for parts and turned into an anti-air system overnight. The warlords finally understood the warnings, but it was too late. Desperation crept in. They attempted to regroup, to consolidate forces in fortified zones. The strategy failed. The humans didn't engage in conventional battles. They struck where they were least expected, crippling supply chains, cutting power, collapsing tunnels. Every countermeasure was anticipated and rendered useless before it could be deployed. Even their psychological tactics failed. When previous species had resisted, the Zalkari would take hostages, execute civilians, and broadcast their suffering. It always broke morale. It always led to surrender. Not this time. The more the Zalkari escalated, the more ruthless humanity became. Entire squads went missing, only to be found later if they were found at all. Their bodies weren't left as warnings. There were no trophies taken. Just silence. A distress signal was sent to the Galactic Senate. The Zalkari, once proud and arrogant, now begged for assistance. No response came. The galaxy was watching. And no one was coming to save them. The Zalkari fleet broke formation. The retreat order was given, but it came too late. Their warships, once symbols of unstoppable power, were now little more than burning wreckage. The humans had done the impossible, not just resisting an empire, but crippling it. Survivors scrambled for any escape route, but there were none. The humans had studied their tactics, anticipated their movements, and set traps they couldn't avoid. Every desperate attempt to flee ended the same way, with another Zalkari ship falling in flames. On the ground, resistance turned into extermination. What remained of the invasion force was hunted with surgical precision. There were no negotiations, no pleas for surrender. The Zalkari had made their intentions clear from the beginning. Humanity responded in kind. The few who did escape returned to a changed galaxy. Their empire, once feared, was now a cautionary tale. The mighty Zalkari, who had crushed entire civilizations, had been broken by the very species they mocked. Other alien races, once terrified of them, now looked upon them with scorn or worse, pity. The Galactic Senate received the final reports. The warnings about humanity had been ignored, and the price had been paid. There was no need for further discussion. The humans remained on their world, victorious but silent. They did not seek expansion, nor did they boast of their victory. They simply rebuilt. Waiting. The message was clear. Let this be a lesson. Never come back.